All right, hello and welcome back to the Game Dev Show. I'm here today with Dave, Pal, and Andrew to talk about some pretty cool, exciting announcements that were released this week. So, before we get started, I did want to talk really quickly about one of the things that Pal's got coming up Monday, just so that everybody knows about it, and that's the big lava environment right behind him. That's coming out this Monday, right?
Yeah, it's coming on Monday on Asset Store. We will be also publishing some movies on the YouTube to it, and we will be hanging out during the premiere of our trailer there.
Yeah, so if you haven't checked it out, it's just amazing lava and it looks crazy. You can see it right behind him if you're watching in the video, and you can go check it out on the asset store on Monday. And before then, you can go grab the asset packs. You've got 3 of them that are up on sale on the asset store right now, right? With this RPG bundle. You want to get a good preview of what he's got and what this art looks like. It's amazing stuff. And while I'm on that topic, I do want to mention that Andrew also has 10 assets up on the asset store that are 50% off and part of this RPG bundle as well. It's lots of cool stuff up there, lots of things that I want to kind of look at and maybe consider using for developing on this new device. Although I'm not really sure how that's going to work and what the specs are and what kind of art and things we can use. So I guess with that said, let's dive into the main topic today. So last week, or I guess earlier this week, Apple revealed finally their new VR headset, or their AR VR headset, the Vision Pro, which I think everybody's been kind of waiting on for a long time. I assumed that it was going to be, until it was down to the size of Dave's glasses before they actually released something, but this is kind of like a lighter ski goggle size, or I'd say maybe
not lighter.
not lighter in weight, but I mean in size. So they look a little bit smaller, but they are metal, and they're also really kind of impressive. There's a whole lot to say about them. So I guess I'm gonna just shut up and let whoever wants to dive in with their first impressions go ahead. Who saw the thing and who loved it, who hated it?
Oh, I'm going to rant for ages, so who wants to
go?
Okay,
I'll rant for not ages. I think it looks cool, cooler than the others. I think it looks weird. I have ideas that Apple has long plans for this rather than they plan ahead, and I think this is like the Apple Watch launch. I am very curious to see, once it's launched, how long it takes for someone to actually go down a hill on a snowboard or skis while wearing So take bets on what date that happens.
Yeah, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, I could definitely see it happening. I mean, people are going to do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. So, and I'm sure. Well, I'm not going to get into that yet. Dave, what do you think? I mean, you've done a ton of VR and AR development. I think you have every headset right now, or at least you've had them all and gone through them.
I gave up on collecting every headset because it's just getting unbelievable. I think I've got 13 or 14 headsets. So I've got a lot of them, but I haven't got all, because it just went mental. I mean, you got Pimax, which is absolutely huge and expensive. Big Screen VR just released their new one, which is custom for every person that picks them up and fits properly on the head, which is an incredible piece of kit. I mean, if you want the smallest VR headset, it's Big Screen VR at the moment, because they are absolutely titchy. But they're all customized, so you can't really share them very well unless you've just got the most generic face and the most generic eyes that ever existed. And I don't. I'm blind as a bat when it comes to that sort of thing. So that's a work for me. Now, looking at the Vision Pro, there's a lot of positives, and I will start that. Before I go into all the not so great stuff about it, I will state that it's a very big positive for the industry. I've done an awful lot of VR development, professional, personal. I've built for augmented reality. I've done stuff in all music events across the US and all the rest. So I've done my fair share of this stuff, and I've made a good amount of cash off it. However, There is things about using the Apple headset in enterprise that are going to hold it back a little bit. The one being that it's enclosed in the Apple ecosystem. You will see a similar problem to some of the problems that Facebook had when they were releasing their headset. But we'll see how they go about that when they release. It all works okay when you go to look at design studios and stuff like that, and that's very much what they focused on in their video. But when you look at big enterprise and you look at XR training and stuff like that, we'll have to see how that pays off and how that works out. I know some places won't allow it for being an AR pass-through headset purely because it's got an external cord. It's a weird thing, but if you're in the manufacturing industry, they have very strict requirements about having cords or wires running from anything on your person. Because if they get caught in a piece of equipment, you're going to be married to that piece of equipment very, very quickly. And if it's moving, you might lose something, an arm, for instance. So there's things around that sort of thing. But let's talk about the actual, just the consumer side of things and everything else. When you look at price point, because let's just hit the big nail on the head, $3,500 is a lot of money for this piece of equipment. Now, it's got an awful lot of sensors. It's got amazing screens. It's got very capable fit, and it's made from very good materials. Some materials are a little bit heavier. There were a lot of reports coming out talking about the fact that this feels a lot heavier than the MetaQuest headsets. So you will get neck fatigue and face fatigue from wearing this sort of thing. So that could be an issue. But $3,500. It was funny how they pre-emphasized it. They turned around and went, if you're about to buy the highest end OLED TV and you're about to buy a full surround sound system in your house and with the receiver that's going to be able to put that out, and you're going to buy this and you're going to buy that. And they went through all these different things. They went, think how much that will cost, sort of thing. And then they go, oh, and this is $3,500. It's a lot cheaper. And then I was sitting there thinking, yeah, that's great if you're one person in your household. Like, I would still need a TV and all the surround sound stuff because my wife watches TV with me and we don't share a headset and then switch.
You just need two headsets, Dave.
Well, this is it. So then you're looking at $7,000. But look at Jason. I mean, you literally have a community as a family. So you got that many people. Imagine buying
6 kids.
$3,500 for each one of them, because I'm sure the kids won't share very nicely on these sort of things. So the other thing was 80% of their marketing for this thing was somebody sitting there watching a 2D movie.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. You can have the biggest screen capable in VR, but to be honest with you, you still got to push it back so that you're not just sitting there going like that, trying to watch different parts of the screen at every time. So it's got to be back at a certain size anyway. The problem is most movies these days are over 2 hours long, and the battery is 2 hours. So,
but if you're watching a battery, you can just plug it in, right? I mean, if you're watching a movie, you just plug it in. There's no reason to be on. I think the battery is more for if you're moving and standing, walking around.
You're sitting on your couch, and now you have to get a big, really long cable to sit there and watch the movie. It's just,
or you just plug it into the cord on your couch. What kind of couch you got, Dave? What the hell?
No, it's me. So I actually do have, I modified my couch to have a plug socket in it and USB ports onto it. But that's me. I'm strange. I modify everything that I get. I literally could sit on my couch and just go clunk like that and plug it into the couch, because why the hell not?
Yeah, and Dustin mentioned in chat airplanes too. And typically, I think all of the airplanes I've been on recently have USB ports to plug into that you can use during flight too for power too. So
note on that, use the plug socket if there's a plug socket rather than USB, because people put little caps over them that pull your data or destroy your phone. But anyway, carry on.
Without having seen the entire detail set, can't you just carry 2 of the batteries?
That was the other thing. I'm sure they'll cost $400 each, but if you're buying a $3,500 headset, what's $400?
Probably more than that, because it's Apple. They sold feet that were like $1,000 or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the question comes is, there's a headset out at the moment which has an external battery, and what you can do is you can actually unplug and then plug in while the headset's still running. They didn't actually mention whether there's an internal battery that sits there between the two plugins, because otherwise you have to switch off, switch on again. So that's something that might be there, but they didn't actually mention it at the time as to whether that's in there. It does exist in headsets at the moment. Somebody's saying there's an internal battery. so it might be there. So that might be okay to hot swap. It's done already in another headset. So if that's the case, then cool. Switch out those batteries, buy another battery for $400, and run with it. So there's all those sort of points. The comfort and fit, of course, we won't know until everybody starts getting them and putting them on. The pass-through thing was a little bit weird, where you could just see people's eyes, but it was still very cool. Especially
the pass-through. You mean the eye pass-through from the outside to the in, where you can see the eyes and kind of track them?
Well, you could see somebody looking at you. You can see their expression. If everybody's wearing one of these things in a meeting, you could look at each other like some uncanny valley, weird universe, dystopian future sort of thing. But the fact that it masks out when people are going full internal, so you can actually twist the knob and it will go from I'm watching a little screen to I'm covering my entire field of view, so I can't see the pass-through inside. And therefore, what happens is the eyes kind of glaze over and people know that you're inside a complete environment. This is going to be a good thing. You'll see it appearing in design studios, high-end design studios that do fashion, that do even software and things like that will start having these around to be used because they just will. It's part of a marketing gimmick for them. And also they're Mac focused on a lot of those sort of things. Looking at the processor, the M2 processor is going to be sweet for this. Super powerful. They put in another processor to take all the sensor data, which is a problem with some of the headsets where all the sensor data goes through the same processor as the processor you're using. And sensor data has to be processed. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
The eye thing is an interesting thing. My initial reaction was it's more for the other people in the room. Like, yeah, I understand that it's valuable for the person wearing it as well. But when you're in a room with somebody who's wearing goggles, especially now with pass-through cameras that are very good, you have no idea what they're doing. You don't know if they're looking at you or not. They'd be like, no, I'm not looking at you. Go ahead, change your pants. I don't care. I'm playing Beat Saber. But the whole time they're looking at you. So I think Apple's being a little smart in understanding they seem to want people to wear it around, which when it is the size of Dave's glasses, that makes more sense. Right now, we will see random weirdos walking around the stores with them and all that, trying to be cheeky. But I think the reality is they want people to feel comfortable walking around, so they want other people feeling comfortable having people walk around. And we all know everybody wants to punch a person with Google Glass. And so, they mentioned briefly, I think at least once in the keynote, that when somebody is recording, with that silly, we should talk about that. That's silly. I'm your dad. I'm going to wear this while you're opening presents.
That was so funny.
When someone's recording, it's supposed to be clearly indicated that they're recording.
It flashes.
Yeah. So you can punch them in the face. And I think that's where they're going with this. I think there's a lot of reasons we can say that they're basically starting out big in order to anchor their product line. It's expensive. So when they do come out with the cheaper one, we don't complain that's $1,800 or $1,500 because that's a lot less than $3,500. It's what they did with the Apple Watch. It's what they did with the iPhone. They do that. This is what Apple does. And then eventually they'll get smaller and smaller and smaller, and eventually they'll be Dave's glasses.
I'm interested to hear Jason's thought on, would you actually go up to your kids? Well, actually, no, I shouldn't ask you. You would go up to your kids wearing a silly goggle set to film them in spatial. You're that type of person.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
But I feel like most people would be like, take that thing off your head. Your kid's celebrating their first birthday. And I know you're watching the game in the side. That's one cool thing. You could have the game going on in the side while you're actually, I'm recording the kids. And it's all interesting.
Think of the possibilities. Think of the possibilities. You can literally line up the kids' party and start making everything go like different disco colors or whatever.
I mean, yeah, I can think of a lot of things. Like now I'm thinking I could use it to also like remind me not to burn all the food when I'm trying to have the kids' party. To figure out and find recipes and pop them up to like if I could have it do overlays over like the whole kitchen and show me how to do stuff. Like I'm pretty terrible at cooking, although I like to do it. So if it could just like instantly overlay things, give me timers and countdowns and stuff in the kitchen and stuff, and be kind of like the I don't know how many of you have been to the Disneyland 10 years ago, but they used to have like a future kitchen thing that was all set up by Microsoft, and it was all this like interactive shit where it was projecting down onto the tables and countertops and stuff, and doing that for essentially for like, it was supposed to be like a kitchen of the future type thing. But I could see it being super helpful for that kind of stuff. So you guys brought up parties, and it just made me think of all the times that like there's kids running around, and I just constantly burn stuff, and then I want to make stuff and I don't know how, and it'd be really handy for that.
Well, I think it's very interesting that what I don't imagine people will use this headset to actually record their kids, but I do imagine, Canon has a 3D lens attachment for their cameras. What I imagine is this could open the door for even more technology like that, where you can just set up the camera. I don't know if you've watched any 3D videos in a headset, but it's very immersive. When done well, they're amazing. But when done poorly, like if someone's shaking their head while recording, it's terrible. It's horrible because you're getting their head movement. It's way worse than someone mentioned dads in the 70s, 80s, or my dad, he'd go to our band shows or whatever, and he'd be bouncing the camera. It's way worse than that because you're in it. It's very immersive if done well. So I imagine that there's going to be a huge opportunity for companies to come up with cameras that record, they probably hopefully be stationary so people can just put them up and then you can experience later. Maybe even 3D, like multiple cameras that can be stitched together so that you can get a more immersive experience. So I think there's there's just a lot of opportunities that aren't people wearing the headset and recording.
Oh yeah. And real quick on that, for anybody thinking that you should wear the headset and record the whole time, that would be a terrible idea. I just think it would be cool to wear it for a little while you're doing some stuff, record, get some cool 3D shots, and then you let the kids watch it. Kids love watching videos of themselves. If you don't show the kid the video of themselves, there's no point in taking it because you'll probably never watch it again yourself anyway. So just do like these little clips and then you show it to them.
There is one more tiny thing to mention regarding that comment, which is when you are wearing a headset, you have both hands free, which is something that you don't get when you're holding a phone.
Yeah.
Which leads into the fact that the headset doesn't come in controllers.
Yeah.
Which is a change. It was funny when they started talking about gaze to select and hands to select and all the rest of it, and it kind of took me back to remember when the DK1 was out and you had to use your head to pick things up and all the rest. That was always hilarious. Yeah. But of course, this uses
before there were controllers. You had to look and click. Yeah,
look and then you click with the button on the little. It was a controller, but it's more like a remote than an actual track controller. Which was really clunky. But this one uses, obviously, gaze to basically detect where your eyes are looking.
Oh, that's right. It had, but I forgot about that.
All reports, that is awesome. That's working really, really well in this headset. They didn't mention peripheral vision in this, how much of a field of view you actually had. I heard from one report, I think it was Marcus Brown, that said it was basically the same as the Quest. Now, walking around with that could be an issue. I could see people smacking into tables left, right, and center, but who doesn't do that anyway when they're using their phone? But that could be an issue with as far as how good this pass-through works when you're in an office environment, etc. So we'll see how that works out as well.
There is also another thing to mention here, which is because it's based on sight, it's great for people with difficulties to move limbs. For example, if you have a hurt hand, it's actually fantastic because it minimizes the amount of hand movement you have to do in order to execute certain actions. Sight-based.
Except you still have to select with this.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you are able to do a single tiny movement like that with any one of your four limbs, it's way easier than...
And they're going to have Bluetooth, so you will be able to use some controllers and stuff. So I could see accessibility as you're talking about there, Uri. Somebody, even if they can't do this, if you've got a Bluetooth connector to this, you could. There's plenty of things. You look at Microsoft accessibility, you look at PlayStation accessibility, and all the other stuff. And I know there's devices coming out for tracking other things. I can't talk about some because I'm under NDA for it, but the ability to be able to press something with any part of your body can work as a click, and if that's on Bluetooth, that's great with the eye selection.
And like you could even simplify it to voice commands that are translating into certain clicks, and then that opens up like the entire interface for you instead of like having very specific actions for what you need.
Yeah.
And Apple's been quite good with their accessibility for their devices. So this, I doubt this will be any different in that respect. Now, as far as the controller is concerned, there are a few little issues with this as far as gaming is concerned. If you look at a lot of the VR games that are out now, you use a lot of the buttons. You're using your A, you're using your B, you're using your grip, you're using your toggles, you're using everything coming out there, your joysticks on the controllers. So straight translation of a lot of those games won't happen. They will have to be converted to be able to do a hand tracking system. And you could get ahead of that now because, of course, the Quest has hand tracking. It doesn't sound like it's as good as the Apple one, but again, I haven't used it yet, so we'll see. But you could get a head start by converting your games over to use hand tracking now, working out what your input methodology will be moving forwards with that, if you decide you wanted to go and jump into the Apple ecosystem.
You think people would just get controllers for those situations too? I wonder, like, the hand tracking's cool, and Beat Saber's cool and all that, and Beat Saber without controls could be cool, but for a lot of games, maybe it just makes sense to go out and buy some third party.
It depends on if they're tracked. Like, there's a difference between just having your standard Bluetooth controller from a PlayStation controller or Xbox or something like that to connect to this thing, to actually having a tracked controller. If I am playing a shooting game and I'm there going like this, and my reload is here, and I'm doing all the rest of this stuff, then that starts to become an issue. The other issue with going straight hand tracking is occlusion, where I'm basically occluding one hand with the other in front of the sensors. Am I going to be able to get a good, precise action of my second hand that's covered by my first hand?
Yeah.
Also, there are some XR training programs that I've developed where you basically have to use a very large controlled based device, a big like stick thing, to perform actions in manufacturing. And one of your hands goes out the sight of your headset to be used, but the controller tracks where it is still. So those sort of things won't be possible with this particular device. Now, that's a very niche case, and it's a very small case, so it's not a big thing. But the control buttons, the extra buttons and input, and the occluding like this could be a problem. So we'll have to see how that comes out.
There is also a case for like finding games that would fit better with using more of the eye tracking and less of the actual button pressing. Like, there have been uses for seeing where you look in order to have a more immersive experience, because it naturally tracks your interest in things, and like the mere act of noticing something can be affecting how it's acting in gameplay. That said, I don't foresee heavy action games working with this. I doubt the eye tracking is like really responsive to a degree.
Well, Apple did a bit of a push with games this time round. You'll notice that outside of the actual reality headset, they had Gnoma turn up to basically promote Death Stranding coming out on the headset. They talked a lot about the metal and all the rest of it. They're really pushing, please bring games to our devices, which is a different sort of stance than they've had in previous years. So we'll see how that plays out as well. And of course, they promoted Unity heavily during the event and the WWDC, like the events that happened after the announcements. There was a lot of talks. I've got links somewhere where basically they had Unity and Apple standing together talking about how to port to these things, what the capabilities are with the headset as far as building a game that is sitting on a tabletop or surrounding yourself in an immersive environment, a VR environment. Weirdly, they didn't mention VR barely at all during the actual keynote presentation, but it was mentioned in the talks off the back of the WWDC stuff. So, and they never mentioned metaverse.
No, they didn't. I did get a good video from that Unity talk. I think one of you sent it in Discord. I can't remember who. I gotta find it and I'll drop it in the description though, so everybody can go
out for a second.
Yeah, my internet connection is having some issues. But yeah, I'll drop the link for that in the description for that talk, the one that I had. If you guys have any other ones too, just let me know and I'll make sure to put those down there too. There was quite a bit of stuff though, and it looks like Unity's been working kind of heavily with them on this stuff, kind of secretly. It's the first I've heard about it, so hopefully we can find out a little bit more soon and actually start playing with it. I'm really curious though, before we go any further, out of all of you, who actually plans on getting one of these headsets and who's not getting one, who's undecided?
Not getting.
I would aspire to get one, but let's be clear, I'm not going to be able to use, I don't have enough time to make use of that right now or in the near future. So, nope.
So, there is the one case
I'm planning to get one, most likely.
Nice.
I will probably get one if a client asks me to get one.
So you'll get one.
If a client turns up and says, we really want you to build this on the Apple headset, or we need you to test this thing on Apple headset, then I'll get one. But outside of that, I'm not going to get one. I've got too many headsets already.
I'm finding that the more that I try to think of like how will I actually use this, the less that I want to actually get one. I am thinking that in the end of the day, I'm just going to use it as a glorified screen more than anything, because I don't trust that I can use it for like heavy action gameplay, and for that I already have another VR headset. In regards to making it like an oversized screen, as you pointed earlier, doesn't matter how big the screen can physically be, you're still going to push it back away, and then like if it covers the same field of view, you're essentially getting gimped resolution at like more head weight added. So it's like, what's the point? Also, the battery life is like a real killer, because if I am going to use it for like a glorified reader, I want to be able to read something that's probably longer than 2 hours in length, and I don't want to be plugged into a wall when I'm using a headset.
Yeah, as somebody mentioned already, the only time I really see it as a thing that I would love to have is when I'm on a plane flight, where I can plug in and I could sit there, because I go back and forth to England because I live just south of LA, and I go back and forth to England every year, and that's an 11-hour flight. And there are people around me, and I hate people.
VR headsets on planes are great too. It's like you're not on a plane. You can forget you're on the plane, especially with some noise canceling headphones. You're just gone out of that environment. All the screaming, all the other stuff.
I want to know if I can control the LED screen on the front, because I would literally put on there, "Leave me the F alone," just written on the front of it, so anybody that's coming past would be like, "Okay, I'm going to leave this person alone as I sit there." Because I hate people. Why would I want
just
to
put some sleeping eyes there? So it looks like you're passed out.
Well, that was what everybody used to do on the old DK headsets. They used to get those little wobbly eye things, eyes, the googly eyes. That's the one, and literally stick them on the headsets. Every time you went to a conference, there were just googly eyes sitting on those headsets.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Buy a $3,500 headset and then stick googly eyes on it. Yeah.
To cover the screen. I wonder, using it on an airplane, you forget where you are. You don't realize that when you take it off, you're like that close to the dude next to you, and you're just like staring at him for the last 30 minutes.
It's okay. Just put the headset back on.
Yeah,
you're clicking right in front of him.
Exactly. But they do have you can check every once in a while.
I will say the battery pack has USB-C charger port. Yeah, so basically you can have your own battery pack, just clipped to it, and you have as big battery pack as you can.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just a USB-C battery pack, I would assume you could just get like a big giant brick.
No, it's got a connector. A special proprietary connector.
You have the pack. You can take your battery pack, snap to it, and just have smaller cable to it. Yeah.
Is the pack disconnecting from the cable then?
No, but from what the people said, the pack from Apple has USB-C charging port.
Oh, okay, interesting.
chain them.
So,
Just plug into the pack right there,
so you
which
can
probably just doing a voltage
theoretically
conversion.
you could take the pack to it. Yeah. I would assume the the VR companies that make battery packs would just make something that's clipped that works correctly
Stick
with it,
onto it, yeah.
and that's will be it.
I'm
To the
sure
point
there
where
will
it comes
be
like a big cordless drill charger that just sits on you, just carrying this thing around like the old mobile phones back in the 80s.
Yeah, but how many people are just taking the Quest and putting battery packs on the back to maybe we have the weight and just plug it in? Yeah,
That's
so
going to be
it's-
probably the first accessory you see. Somebody that's just 3D printing a little connector that just sits on their band that they can just slot the battery pack into the back of the headset.
Or special straps too, because they said that they were making the straps removable. We could just make a strap that holds it too.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think one more thing I would like to talk about is that for me, when I look at this headset, I think the same as Vario XR3. For me, it's the similar concept right now. Yeah, so two headsets that are, I will give you the link. Yeah, so two headsets that have similar capabilities, but the price list is quite different between two of them. Yeah, because Vario XR3 is 6,500, 7,000, something about that. Yeah, and Apple
And a
is
subscription.
and the subscription. And Apple
You have to
Pack
have a subscription
is scroll lower. That's the headset from Vario, yeah.
Yeah,
And the headset from Apple is cheaper with the same capabilities right now.
but there's a very different market. Vario was built for the enterprise market for XR training, and that's how they promote it. Whereas Apple's going, this could be a consumer or take it into your design studio.
Yeah, for me that's the question. Where is Apple going with it? Yeah, if it's going for consumers with this, then it's not sure. Yeah, but looking at the quality, the things that they do, it's similar to this one. Yeah.
It is interesting. They kind of positioned it as a computer replacement or a potential computer replacement. And maybe for somebody who doesn't want a desktop or a laptop, doesn't do enough work like that, I guess. You get your phone for everything, email and everything. Now you've got another device you can take with you, connects to your phone probably very seamlessly, I think, right? So now when you are on the plane or in a coffee shop, you have more space. So it's a new option for somebody who doesn't want all this.
There is
just get a straw, because drinking with a headset on is a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
There is like one small quality of life thing that I have seriously considered, which is when I saw the short video of the new headset, they really put a lot of effort into the back headrest comfortableness. Look, like they really try to sell that it's comfortable to put on your head and like take off, which I found weird to a degree. Like when you look at all the other headsets, they try to be cool, and like this one is like actively trying to be a mini pillow.
And for good reason, though. That's one of the biggest complaints about a lot of the headsets you get. The basic strap that comes with them is nearly always ripped out, and they buy the pro strap every time because they're just not comfortable.
Yeah, but one thing, do you see that in some videos there's an additional strap at the top of the head? Not only the back one, but there's also on some videos on top of the head.
That'll definitely come out, yeah.
This small part of the video had a second strap. And some people that have been trying it also said there's additional strap at the top.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring this up because I'm thinking, like, had I been using this for like full comfort, like no bars held, the one thing that would actually sell this for me the most is not having to use like my hands when I'm trying to read something long, which means like I could lie down on my bed, look up, which is like the healthiest rest position, and the screen would be at the ceiling, and I could just like move my eyes and click on a button, and it would like switch between the pages. And if I try to move to the side, like when I'm resting, it's still going with me, which is the real sell for me as far as comfort goes. But like, I don't know, I just found it weird that it invoked this kind of set of thoughts.
I imagine eye clicking will be a thing.
Yeah, Jason, at the top of this There's a screen from the video they posted from Apple's higher. Yeah, here's the headset. There's no second strap, but if you scroll higher, this one was in the during the showcase. This one video was also showcased that has secondary strap at the top.
I mean, the one point Uri picked out is reading a book. Like, I've heard that because of the quality of the screens on this thing, reading text is a dream. It's gorgeous. Whereas in all the other headsets, I would never read a book. Like,
that's what
your eye strain from that is just appalling.
That's the first thing that I had an issue with when I tried the first Vive. It was just uncomfortable. When you try to like make small text, it was literally unusable. You'd had to have big text, and you also had to make the text bright as opposed to dark, because like the colors would have to be like bright enough to blend together, or else you'll see the seams between the font letters. Like each individual letter would be like a bunch of pixels.
Yeah, I made a VR real estate company quite a few years ago, way before it should have come out. And we had to have text on things because it's real estate. There's prices, there's details, and all the rest. And we spent probably a week picking out the font, picking out the sizes, doing all the checks and all the rest to make it comfortable to read. Because you can't have small text, and contrast is a massive issue, and fonts a huge issue. Like, you would never put anything that lied near metallic in this thing because it's abusive.
Yeah. Like,
So on the topic of these headsets and like where they're going, I'm kind of curious what you guys think long term is going to happen. I mean, I think Andrew kind of hinted what he was thinking, but do you guys think that these are coming out sometime next year, the Pro headsets? Do you think there's going to be a non-Pro version that's lower priced, much lower priced? Do you think it's going to just be another generation in a couple years? Do you think they're going to go like iPhones and just every year they're going to be rolling out a new version of this thing and maybe multiple new versions of it? Or do you think this is going to be just like a one-off? I'm just curious what you guys are kind of expecting for the market on these things. I know some people that are just kind of like waiting for version 3, right? But
well, let's not dismiss the fact that Meta has a headset coming out in September, the Quest 3, that they announced 1 week before the Apple launch, and they will sell more of those headsets because of the Apple launch. I mean, I've not found anybody that's thought differently than that. They're going to come out at $500. People are going to look at that and go, "Yep, that's good enough for what I want it for." And I'll wait until Apple comes out with their second version of their headset before I buy that one, because
they'll wait until somebody makes fun of them for having the Facebook one instead of the Apple one and being an old man or whatever.
Yeah, blatantly. But they'll want to see what the screen resolution's like on the Quest 3. They'll want to see what the pass-through's like. It's going to have a lot of the Quest Pro stuff coming down into the free headset, which might be enough for everybody out there. Of course, big diehard Mac and Apple people are going to buy this headset. Like, it's a no-brainer for them. They have to buy everything that comes out from Apple. Now, personally, I think Apple will keep this one for a year and a half before they bring out another one or a lower tier one that sits with maybe a little bit less. Once they see how much everybody's using the current headset, what features they're using the most, they'll come out with another one. Apple's very good about that sort of thing with their lower priced offerings on their phones that they come out every year, with the previous year's one, but maybe a little bit less. And
it took a while on the first iPhone though, right?
But now they do
exactly. I think it was like 3 or 4 versions before they started coming out with slightly lower priced.
But now they do it on every one. They do the same on the Macs and the same on the PC. It seems like a standard that they do now because they've seen the offerings and how people go, "Oh, that's really glossy and nice, but I could actually buy that one." You know, the Pro sells the lower version in a lot of circumstances, and that's one of the reasons to have a Pro version, because more people will buy the lower version because of it.
It also gives the opportunity for people to say, "Oh, well, the Pro version is not that much more. I guess I can afford it because it's only that much more." People do that with the phones. Like, okay, I could, that's $700 for that phone. I don't know what the actual prices are. $700. That's only $200 more for the Pro version. That seems like a good deal now. It's only $200. I would imagine that the first Vision non-Pro And if somebody mentioned Vision Air, that makes a lot of sense when they have the first super lightweight Vision device.
Yeah.
Is going to be the Vision Pro, just for the most part cheaper. And the new Vision Pro will have been the upgraded. So you'll get that, and that's what they do with the phones. That's what they do with the computers. You'll get the latest and greatest with the Pro. They'll come out probably every year and a half. Maybe it won't be every year like the iPhones. Maybe like iPads are not every year. So maybe it'll be more like that, where it's a little bit, they let it linger. But I would imagine it's going to come out. They have the next few versions planned. I also imagine they have a long-term roadmap that includes Dave's glasses, and then all the way to future tech like contact lenses in the 20-year time frame. If that ever comes to pass.
Yeah, battery's always a problem.
Mm.
When you go small, battery just becomes an issue more and more. I mean, you see the big screen VR doesn't have a battery in it. You plug it in, like it's.
Just run a USB cable up to your glasses and call it good.
But that means I have to wear trousers every time I'm wearing a headset.
Or a jacket, or like a snap-on for like.
Just tape it onto your back with duct tape.
I've taped enough stuff onto my body with building stuff that I'm not doing anymore.
Wasn't wireless power a thing a few years ago? Like everyone was
still coming.
Yeah.
Room-based wireless power is still coming. It's just got to go through all the standards and checks before they can start putting it out, because they're still trying to convince people it's not microwaving them while they're sitting in the room. But of course, as soon as you leave your house,
unless your device at that time is also able to beam a certain amount of power. I
love the fact that at GDC they had this. Oh, it's a completely wireless TV. There's no power going into it. You could put it on a window and all the rest of it. And it just takes these batteries. As one person went in with two hands and like shifted out. Like, oh my god, the size of that thing! But yeah, it's.
They last.
That is definitely like a specialty thing when you want to show off that there's a screen on a window for some display, or because you just have too much money and want everybody to know.
Or you want to have the most impractical in the middle of the room TV.
Yeah.
It's not impractical. It's just how I sit. Go on.
I wanted to bring up Jeff's comment real quick about the pricing on this Vision Pro and how it will very likely be subsidized by something. I assume Apple will have some payment plan option on it. But do you guys think that like the mobile carriers will too? Is this going to have cell?
Doesn't have it
like
yet.
chip built in?
No, I didn't think it did have cell service into this one. I mean, they never mentioned it.
No.
Yeah, but there's possibility that if you have iPhone close to it, it will connect to it. Yeah, so there's possibility that the same with Apple Watch. Yeah.
Yeah,
you have your phone in the same room. You just connect with your headset.
Yeah.
But then your phone's the one that's got the subsidized thing.
Yeah,
not
but
the headset.
But like they already do that with phone.
You can always get a bundle.
Yeah,
you can get the new iPhone and the headset for only $5,000.
So
I'm $100 a month.
I'm not justifying it, but right now, if you want to get an Apple Watch, you have to already have an iPhone. You literally can't use it without. So they're kind of pushing this
ecosystem.
If you want to go in on Apple stuff, you have to get an iPhone.
I'm sure they've got the data showing that is where they make all their money, by people buying one, then they buy them all. Which actually a genius move for Apple, who has all these stores everywhere. To buy it, you have to go into the store to scan your face. And so they're going to have a ton of people going to the stores to try this thing out. They won't buy this thing. Maybe they'll buy the light version in 3 years' time, but they're going to be primed for the future, and they're also going to be exposed to all the other Apple products. So when you walk to the very back of the store, to the middle of the store, they do the Apple Watch try-on thing the same way. You're going to have the opportunity to check out all the other ecosystem, to see how cool they are, to see all the people who are having so much fun. And that marketing is just, that's pure Apple right there. So
I sat in a meeting the other day of enterprise people working on enterprise software for VR for various companies. And one of the things they mentioned is something you just brought up there, Andrew, the fact that with a lot of these things, when we distribute an enterprise solution for XR training, we give them a headset like the Index, like the Meta, and people can wear their glasses and put on the headset, and they share the headset between 100 people. This is a non-sharing headset as it stands and looks. Whether that will be adaptable and all the rest when you go and pick it up, whether you can just slot out, slot in, change up, and it will know your profile and all the rest. But that's another thing that's a preventative against mass adoption in the enterprise space. The fact that everybody needs one of these. I mean, huge Fortune 500 companies have arguments with me about, we have to pay how much for a headset? And you're like, it's $1,000 for the computer and the headset. Calm yourself, or $2,000. Like, you're a multi-million-dollar company. What are you complaining about? Whereas they're going to argue like $3,500 per person. They're just going to say no.
No, it'll be fine because there'll be Apple ones and they'll want their own. They're like, oh yeah, we all need one of these. We each need our own, and we need new iPhones to go with it.
Well, that's what they're saying. That's one thing that was mentioned about, like, you can have profiles on your phone for business or for personal. You can switch between them and shift them off. Will everybody buy one of these headsets to then walk into their office and switch to their business use case or switch away from their personal use case? Be interesting to see if they play that game.
Yeah. There is a funny thought to be had here, which is, as much as we're talking about the hardware, there's like absolutely no talk about the software that we need to use in order to develop on this, because it's like a solved problem to a degree.
Is that part of the reason that they announced
Xcode to solve?
They announced it so early. I think part of the reason is, one, they would have to register it with the FCC or whoever for wireless transmission, so people would know about it. So they announced it early, but that also gives people the opportunity to start thinking, oh, I want to develop software for it, right?
I would assume they're trying to bring in lots of developers now. And that was kind of one of the other last things I wanted to talk about, was where you guys think about getting one to develop on. Also, I'm curious, everybody in chat, can you just say if you are or are not getting one, or if you're planning to? I'm curious, like, how many people are. Just put yes or no. They're just kind of get an idea. I'm curious. But I personally am almost definitely going to grab one, and probably going to build something and see if I can get it out there as a launch title or a release title for it. I don't know what that is yet. I've got a couple ideas starting to bounce around, but I feel like this is just another one of those opportunities where there's a brand new market, there's going to be a huge gold rush. You'll be able to make something relatively quickly before all of the big players get in that have $1 million budgets, get something out there, and maybe have some success. I know, like, early iPhone days, early anything days, there's a lot of really good opportunity if you're really fast. If you wait around a year, though, then that starts to dry up really quick. So you got to kind of jump on it. So I'm going to probably almost definitely do that and come up with something, but I'm curious. It looks like here most people, maybe about a quarter of the people, are saying yes, and then most are saying no.
As far as games are concerned, there is one thing to note, though, that this won't be a dead ecosystem to start with. Like, there will be a lot of ports to this. Unity's making a big push on the idea of porting. They said that in the WWDC stuff. So there will be more than general when a new device comes out. When you saw the Windows Phone come out, there was nothing there because there was there was hardly a port system for it. So they didn't have an awful lot. Same with HoloLens, same with a few of these other devices that came out. However, this is the process of distributing to this headset is a solved problem, and a well tool setted problem as well. There's a lot of tools to push to this thing immediately from what you've got. So there will be more than standard. So if anybody's thinking, I'm just going to buy this just to get on that early adopter thing, there will be a lot of stuff out there. And also, they're porting over all of the Mac apps into this thing and iPad apps into this thing. So there's going to be it won't be the case of some of these things when you first got them, there's one page. Oh my God, there's one page of apps. What did I buy? There's going to be hundreds of pages on this.
I think they're on the apps, though, that are kind of integrated and actually take advantage of the whole system. You're going to be closer to that one page. A lot of those things are going to be 2D apps that are able to play in, like things that would have been flat ones or some VR ones, I think. But I think that if you start to take advantage of some of the and I don't really know exactly what that looks like. That's what I'm trying to think. But I feel like the more of the tech you take advantage of, and more you can kind of stand out and use that, the better and more kind of unique it'll be.
The funny thing is, though, there's not a lot of unique aspects to this thing. Like, it does exist on a lot of other headsets. Pass-through exists on a lot of headsets now and is already
but
out
it's
with
not
a lot of
used
games.
really by games. At least
Oh,
that
no,
I've
it is. There's a
No,
lot
it
of games
is.
on the MetaQuest now for
Are there?
pass-through. Yeah, oh, yeah.
There's lots of games. So
As soon as it became a thing, like everybody tried to figure out how to do it, because when you have a unique feature usage that nobody else has, you get extra discoverability because this is the first one that does it. This is why when there is a new market, you want to be on that market because you get a lot of discoverability from being unique to that. The problem with a market that brings in all the previous market is that like you're not going to get the extra discoverability unless you're unique and stand out. I actually wanted to bring up the Steam Deck that came out, like, I think it was almost a year and a half ago now. Yeah, and that one had a case where games had to be Steam Deck verified to be promoted on the Steam Deck itself. Like, you had a Steam Deck verified front page, and it would only show games that got the green check mark. Valve had to check that your application is like tailored specifically to be perfect to Steam, and we worked quite hard on that in Terraria. Like, we tried to make it to launch with all the features, like being customized for the deck. The game would start at a perfect resolution for the deck. There would be extra control settings for like things that the deck does. It has its trackpad, so you have to take care of it. The new Apple headset doesn't have a lot of that because you already had pointers that had a button and you already had a switch between the views. So it's a solved problem, and you're not going to have anything special to like sell to it except being a very good application. And I don't know if they'll have a process on their marketplace to say these were tailored specifically for this headset, which would be
on top of that. If the one thing I will say though is if you're developing for VR headsets like the Meta or anything like that, it's probably worth doing a port. And Unity also mentioned there's a really good simulator running under Unity for testing your games with an eye to putting them out onto the Apple headset, the Vision Pro. So you don't have to buy this straight away. You can test on the simulator, get it all going on the simulator, make sure it works really well, get it right up there, and then get the headset and put it out. Because as I said, most of the functionality is on other headsets, maybe not as good, but it's there. So really you're just doing the refinement when you put it out onto the Apple headset, when you buy the Apple headset. But the simulators do exist to go and run on these straight away.
But do you have any ideas for things that you can take advantage of on this headset that it does that other ones don't, perhaps with the screen resolution? We talked a little bit about text earlier and how that was really difficult with other ones and maybe possible with this. Do you think like some apps around that or some other of the built-in hardware stuff that we can kind of use to make something really cool? The other thing I was thinking about was like the hand tracking stuff. I know that the other devices have hand tracking too, but I don't know how it compares and if there's anything special you can do with the upgraded version, assuming it is quite a bit better.
The hand tracking, no, I wouldn't say quite a bit better. It's a little bit better. From what I've seen, again, not had it in my hands, not tried to use it myself. But the hand tracking of most of the Meta headsets, as far as games are concerned, is pretty good. And a lot of people are using it and trying it out. You could build Zork, the text adventure game, because now you get text. So you could do that quite happily. But yeah, there's not. I mean, again, I want to see if you can program that front of that screen because I want to mess with people. But it's just going to be a bit better in every way. The screen's going to be better. The processing is going to be better. Maybe you could build a better, more graphical fidelity game with this thing and put it out.
Yeah, so the graphical fidelity is like kind of a mixed bag for me because like I know you get a higher resolution to see things with, but how much do you really care about seeing the tiny micro details like when something gets close to you? Because in the end of the day, it's like still projection. You could have like a zoom in camera that does it entirely perfectly. Like you don't have to stick to like the real physical world's senses to do that. The foveated rendering is like okay. It's something that helps, but it's not something that's going to give you like the full benefit of this higher resolution. You're not going to see micro details far away from you because the eyes are going to render in the low resolution away. The wands are not special in any capacity. It's like, it's a wand. It moves stuff for you. So I don't see any special thing about it that like immediately screams, hey, use me. You're going to be special if you use me.
LiDAR. There's a LiDAR sensor on the front of it that hasn't been put on the other headsets. That I'm just trying to think of, as Euro was talking, I was trying to think of things you could do with it. There is the LiDAR sensor on the front of it. That can lead you to better like processing of your world, your physical world, that you could do something with. But whether it will be better than what Meta's doing with their image capabilities and processing the world to give you structure.
It's like LiDAR is basically a depth buffer for the real world, isn't it?
Yeah, funnily enough, a lot of cars have stopped putting them on the cars because they're like, we're good enough with the cameras.
Yeah, well, they want to save money.
It's not the cheapest.
We'll try to do the same thing with the cameras instead. Yeah.
So just trying to think logically here. The only thing unique to depth buffers is that now you can do effects with depth, and depth only comes into play when you want something behind another thing. So thinking out loud, that comes a lot in shaders when you want to have like a certain effect that only renders like behind the character, like an aura that makes the character stronger. Now you can actually do that because if there's another person in front of you with the depth buffer, you can recognize like where is the actual area behind the person and start doing like flames behind them. And then like you do that and you actually see a flaming aura behind the hand, as opposed to having to like kind of do it all as an overlay. So a mixed reality kind of thing where you have special effects would work, or having like a giant monster behind the mountain behind you. I don't know if the LiDAR sensor would actually pick that up, that there is a mountain at a certain distance. Like I don't know how these sensors work. I can't really think of anything that's like too unique to this. A depth buffer, great.
The other thing is avatars. Having your own avatar was quite interesting, and that's unique to this particular thing in the sense of the fact you take the headset, you scan your face, and then you put the headset on. And now when you're in FaceTime, I thought that was pretty cool. You're in FaceTime, and you now appear to everybody else as a renderer, like because it can see your eyes, it can see where you're looking, it builds your whole body and all the rest.
Yeah, but it's like wearing a face mask of yourself. It's not going to like properly sculpt you, and it won't be able to move your mouth properly. It's like somebody literally carved out your head and stuck it on your character.
Don't know. They've got a lot of cameras looking down that way. They could start picking out mouth movement. Because I thought that's something they mentioned. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I haven't fully watched it, so
they can scan your face quite clearly. Okay. So there will be lots of things possible with it. But for me the question is, would you be able to change how your face look if you want to? Yeah, like because when you're talking with FaceTime, you can change how you look. Yeah. So how quickly people will want to have their own avatars with it? Yeah.
As long as I don't have to comb my hair every time I go into a thing, and I don't have to wear a baseball cap in some of the things, it's all good.
It's so realistic that you look like you do, and so you're like, I just woke up, and now it's showing me like I just woke up.
I wonder if it'll be like every year it turns around, it goes, you should rescan your face because you're older. And, we want to make sure that
the device will be thrown away within a year if you do that.
No, keep me young. No, keep me young, because
I would imagine that if people were using this stuff like they do with other things every day with their friends and stuff, it would have to be customizable. People would desire that. They'd want that. They'd want to make themselves look different. They'd want to use avatars. They'd want to have, special filters to make themselves look whatever, Yeah.
I'm going to look like Dave and get an accent added.
Oh,
I'll make it an Irish accent just for fun. I get like
why would you do that? I'd have somebody else's voice, I think.
I mean, with
Yeah.
all the AI stuff, that will be possible.
I mean, it already is. But the one thing here is that if you want a truly customized avatar, like there are already methods for it. VR chat exists. You can do literally anything in it. You don't need a new headset to scan your face to start doing that. Like,
I still feel like the environment and the people in the Apple headset are going to be quite a bit different from what's going on in VR chat. Like, VR chat has a lot of random people and my son, and I feel like these headsets need to be more just people that know each other talking to each other.
There is the concept that somebody brought up regarding identity theft. I don't think that would be like the main focus of this, but in regards to emotional manipulation, like getting to stay as your younger self within VR certainly has an appeal to certain people. That said, it's a concept that like needs to last for a few generations, like of headsets, because 2 years is not going to be much to do to your looks. And within 2 years,
Which 2 years? I'm aging like cheese, not fine wine at the moment. I'd happily stay for a little bit longer. There's iris scanning and stuff like that for identity theft as well.
Yeah, people are going to steal your eyeballs.
In their eyeballs, isn't it? I thought that was that in the thing that they have the ability to scan your eyeball at force.
Yeah.
For logging in. Yeah.
That's how you log in, which is awesome because logging in VR is a nightmare.
Yeah. Now.
But think about trying to like tell somebody else your password. You literally can do that if you use the eye.
Yeah.
You just
gotta
pop
remember
it up, pass it over, and go.
What do you mean?
In the US, remember though that your fingerprint is not considered speech, so you do not in the US. They can force you to unlock your devices with your finger, and they can probably do the same with your eyeball. So keep that in mind, you criminals.
This conversation took quite a turn.
Oh, haptic gloves. Will haptic gloves be a thing for this? Like, I want to pinch, but I also want to feel things, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah, Jason was asking about some games, so I showcase quickly demo. It's for Quest and Quest Pro. I think for Apple Vision, it will be quite easy to move from one to another. The only problem I see with Apple Vision with this one, there are 3 headsets here.
Nice, and they're all tracking that. I've actually seen that game, but I haven't played it. I need to bust out my my Quest 2 and actually start playing with it again. It's been a while since I've used it, and give it another go.
Thinking about how much will there be in the ecosystem when it kicks off, that is one point though, the fact that Meta owns an awful lot of the companies that produce games in VR, like to the point where they're getting looked at for a monopoly.
Yeah,
so a lot of those games will not be on the Apple headset when they come out. So
I think a lot are exclusives. I don't know what the ratio is.
Oh, they have bought a lot of stuff. You have success as far as the games company is concerned in VR. Facebook's knocking on your door. Well, they're not so much now, but they were knocking on your door quite heavily, asking you if you'd be interested in this bag of money they happen to have in their hands. So
nice. Well, I guess we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I'm still almost definitely gonna grab one and figure out what I can do with it. I mean, even if I say I'm definitely gonna grab one. At the very least, I'll make some videos about how to build stuff with it and do some experimenting and stuff. So I really want to try it out. I also really want to get a Quest Pro though. It's one of the things I tried to get it when it came out, and I don't know if I told you about that. I ordered it 3 different times, and all 3 times my order got canceled for no reason. So I need to just figure out where to get a hold of one now that I've got some time again.
Did you name drop yourself and say, "Do you know who I am? I'm on YouTube"?
No, I just ordered on the webpage, and it said order successful, order processing, and then the next day order canceled. No reason, nothing. Everything was normal. I tried different cards, different addresses, just kept canceling me, so I gave up.
It's because of all those charges to Roblox that your kids keep putting on.
It could be. I tried the business card. I mean, that's where I started.
You did bring up a good point though regarding name dropping in regards to being on a new platform and being like somebody that customers would know from other platforms prior. If you have a good product, like it's very easy to get like to become a dominant one on a new market if you already have an established reputation. Also, the developers like would be more willing to like give you support if you need like unique features. I don't know how much there is for like a headset that you'd want to use that isn't already provided to you in that regard, but like just as an example, with the Steam Deck, we had to figure out like certain things and like ask about certain API calls that were like documented and what do we do in order to give the best experience to players. And like they essentially gave us answers trying to get it right in time for release, which was tremendously helpful on Valve's part. Just like as a general conversation thing. I don't see this device needing as much of that. The Steam Deck had like the unique thing where you had to run it on basically 2 operating systems almost, because they had like the Windows simulation, and also because it has all the input methods as like one thing. Like you have access to the gamepad stuff, trackpad, which is like a mouse, and then you have like the other inputs, and you have to like make a mixed mode where like if your game has a keyboard recognition and a gamepad recognition, and you have the UI switching between them, you can't do that on the Steam Deck because the trackpad that you use with the gamepad counts as a mouse. So it would like switch the UI to PC stuff. I don't see any of these problems like being on the new Apple headset. Am I wrong there, or?
I can't think of any, and I doubt that Apple would be nearly as helpful and responsive too. Because I don't know about all companies, but Valve is like the best that I've seen. They're just always like super responsive and giving answers whenever I've had questions. They're just kind of like, seems like they're all about that. But I don't know. Dave, you got thoughts on that one? Look like you had a thought there.
No, I have an itchy eye.
Itchy eye thought, same thing. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, with the price, I assume they're like working with professionals only. Like, you're not going to buy this headset, try to make something for it, and then like be, oh, I'm casual, I don't actually need all that help. Ignore me, please. Like, they probably have some staff on board to answer questions regarding, like, they want a successful launch. If there are problems, they want to know about them.
Oh, and Unity's going to be doing a lot to support people going forwards with it as well. So.
Yeah, I think you probably have an easier time getting tech support from Unity. I don't, like I said, I've never actually gone through Apple tech support, but usually when there's big companies like that, like Microsoft, Google, those ones, like I find that you usually just don't get a response from anybody unless you know somebody there.
It's good to know someone.
Yeah, that said, if you are using Unity, that means you're essentially going for 2 hoops trying to like get the feature directly. Like if you can't access the Apple SDK, whatever, directly, then you can't invoke features that would be on it. You have to make sure that Unity implemented them to a certain degree. If you're going through Unity stuff, like the generalized Unity solution, XR, Git, whatever it was. So there is like a certain concern there because the loop becomes slower the more people are involved in it. You can't wait for a new Unity version to ship the exact feature that you need, etc., etc. if Apple is updating it faster than Unity does, which they would because they're the source. In regards to that, you brought up the device simulator earlier, David. Have you used that a lot?
I played with it, but the thing that I found is because of the headsets I use, whether it be the Quest or the Index, I've got a very fast PC. I'm on headset within an instant, so I'm not that bothered about it. It's good. As far as I've used it, it's been pretty good. It was quite good for some of the XR kit stuff, for AR kit stuff, and playing around with that. But no, I'm on headset so quick. I'm not that bothered about it because I'm wired in with nearly everything I do.
I know that when I worked on like the first version of the Vive, it was like absolute hell to like put down the headset, change on code, start gameplay, put on the headset. There was no no
That's
device.
why you have that
Yeah.
drop from the ceiling.
Yeah. We
And
know
then
you
you could
have
just
the most customized
put them
ever.
on, and then you just put them out the way, and you get on with coding, and then you put them down from the ceiling again. Does everybody not pull them down from the ceiling?
No,
Yeah.
not everybody is Tony Stark.
I wish.
I have my butler bring them in for me.
And just sets it on your head.
I have him stand behind me and just lower it on my head whenever I need it. Yeah.
I'm ready now.
Yes.
Oh,
The device simulator, though, is honestly amazing. Like the idea that you don't even have to like access the device directly, because you can either send inputs and like see what's on that screen, and it comes back to you like on the developer application, the editor.
It's so underutilized.
Yeah. A lot of people don't even know it exists. Like I helped a friend who works at an Android company not long ago, and like they didn't even know that they're using Unity to work on things, and they're like not using that. Every time that they're trying to change something, check something on the Android, they had to build the application, and like the major loss in quality of life.
Yeah, it's even an Android simulator with their SDK, and people don't know that exists.
yep. Simulators help speed stuff up. Although I still prefer like just running debug time on devices a lot of time if possible. If I can just like have the headset on and play mode and start screwing around. Just because I don't know about you guys. Typically I just find it easier to assuming the time, the back and forth isn't too bad. I find it easier to actually interact with the actual devices a lot of the time. Not always. I mean, a lot of time I just hate putting on a headset too. So I kind of go back and forth.
I would prefer to not do that simply for the sake of like consistency and reproducibility, because when you have a simulator which is consistent and you have a mock human that is consistent, you can check a lot of things in a more sustainable way.
Yeah, I just like the I guess for me is mostly on like seeing what things kind of look and feel like. I have a harder time judging that from the simulator than when you actually have the headset on. At least kind of from my memory, you know, it's like I look at stuff and it looks kind of cool, and then I put it in the headset, it looks way cooler or a little bit off or something, and notice stuff that I wouldn't see in editor and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both the exact use cases you need. As Uri says, if you want to get consistent testing and stuff like that, the simulator can't be beaten. As far as I want to move there, I want to do this, I want to do that. Tell me how this is working. Give me that feedback and all the rest. There's undeniably it's excellent. But then, to make sure that it's good,
Experience
in the headset,
testing,
you've got to get it in the headset.
Yeah, like you can't test experience with something that doesn't assess experience. The idea of simulators is solely to check that things work, as far as I'm concerned. If you want to check the experience, that is a human's like that is where humans shine, because trying to make an experience assessment for a machine is like nigh impossible, because machines don't know what human response times, for example, are, or reachability is. One of the examples that I have for that is like when you're trying to make a game and you have a UI, and you're telling a machine press button 1, button 2, and then button 3. The machine will always do that, and that's consistent. It will work, and you can check the functionality that you reach whatever menu button 3 does. But as soon as a human tries to do it, button 3 is off screen. You can't press it. That's like an immediate experience failure. The machine can't track that unless you give it like the exact code that says, hey, is this enough on screen? Is it visible on screen? Is it reachable on screen? Is it not behind another element? Like you have to make a count of all of that. And like the code gets insanely more complex to try to do these kinds of detections simulation wise. And it's always unique per case. Like even if we're talking like a game with enemies, you have to make sure that the enemy is visible. This is experience testing. And on a computer screen, which runs the simulator, that could be entirely perfectly fine. But on a phone that like runs on less luminance, maybe not.
I had an interesting chat with somebody the other day as well, where they were talking about how do I put debug information in my headset. So that's the other thing. When you're running on a simulator, you get all the debug information just running through there, and you can see it all really easily. You don't have to keep popping your headset on and off. But somebody was asking me, how do I bring up debug text in my headset to know how things are working and how things are going on and all the rest? But yeah.
Andrew, what is this thing that you linked? Do you want to explain it real quick?
Yeah, I was thinking when you were talking, I was like, I thought Unity had some in editor VR or an editor version in VR, but without the tool, I've never used it. I've never really looked into it. So I just Googled it. I found this and I thought maybe David used it or someone else. The idea of making your games in the editors or in the VR headset seems like an interesting use case for potentially the Apple. A high quality headset, I think, would be helpful with a really nice processor and graphics, etc. So I wonder if we'll see maybe an improved version of this that isn't just using Cinti Studios low poly stuff, faceted art style with the Unity editor inside some headset.
It looks interesting. Go ahead.
I think it's just an extension of the Unity editor. So like you should be able to do it with any asset. The problem is you are using a VR headset, which means your performance is dead. Yeah.
So there were 3 questions here that popped up in chat that I start off, and I want to see if we can take them real quick before we run out of time. The first one was about the HoloLens, and it looked like there was discussion, people saying that HoloLens 2 was basically killed off and that Microsoft is done and not doing headsets anymore. Does anybody know anything about that?
I don't think there's been nothing official about it.
Oh, okay.
No
just rumors so far?
Because there are rumors they canceled the military contract, there are rumors that they haven't, they just moved it for 2 years. So it's lots of things going on, but no direct information from Microsoft.
Okay, it'd be interesting to see, because I mean they've really got to step it up if they're going to compete with Apple now, because I feel like this device, at the very least, it seems like it's better than the HoloLens at what the HoloLens is trying to do. But I don't really know without having tried them both. It's hard to say for sure.
Microsoft have already come forward and said there's going to be stuff in the headset of Apple's headset. There's Microsoft.
Oh, okay. They're
a big software company. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like they do on the Macs and all the rest. There will be stuff.
And the phones. I don't know if they still do. They still get a cut of every Android phone?
Probably. It was like a built-in thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. As far as I remember. Okay, so the other thing, or the next one that popped up was about the Quest 3. So I guess I haven't seen the full interview that he did with Lex yesterday, but I guess he said there that the Quest 3 was as good as the Quest Pro in a lot of aspects, or in many. I don't know what that means exactly. I need to go through and just kind of watch the interview, but have you all seen much about the Quest 3 and how it kind of lines up?
There's no full spec yet on it, so... And the point to pick out there is in many aspects, because he's got to sell it. So it's until I see it, until it's out there being promoted in September, is it? They're going to launch. Yeah, we'll wait and see.
You all right?
Yeah. No, I haven't looked into it.
Put him on full screen. Just
this one, your eye is going to have a thought about. So there's one more question that I wanted to pop up that I know you're more likely to have some thoughts on. It says that Daz 3D announced development of game characters generated by a chat text. Has anybody seen this? This was a new announcement to me too. So I'm going to look it up on my other screen real quick.
My first thing was, it's supposed to be AI, and my thing was, is it really AI, or are they just like light version of AI where they're just taking the keywords and say, like, there are videos like, make me an Asian male, make him older. And I'm like, all right, if they see the word make older, they just move these sliders up. That's not really, they just have a library of content that they're utilizing, right?
Depends on like what the library contains, because you can make a lot of permutations if you just start like cutting out certain sections of clothes. Like you have a shirt and it has short sleeves, long sleeves, etc. If it has a jacket on it, you can have a jacket with short sleeves, long sleeves. It can be rolled up. It can have like buttons. It can have a zipper. It can have a pocket on the front, and all of those things can have like their own blend shapes. If I recall correctly, and I haven't interacted with Does 3D a lot, but if I recall correctly, it is like the king of creating custom morphs for characters. Like, if I recall, it would.
I think I will be impressed when I can take the character and I say, make me a dress, and it makes a dress that you can't get on their store. That it's an actual new mesh, an actual new thing that was made for that character. And I don't think what they have right now is that.
So, if I recall correctly, and again, this is entirely running off old memory, like we're talking years old, so it may be entirely outdated or wrong. But if I recall correctly, they have a lot of morphs for characters, and they use like their own algorithm to create those morphs, and those morphs can apply to the clothes in whatever system that they have, their market. So any cloth can fit on any character, if I recall. Which means like they have a gigantic collection, and on top of that, if they start making permutations of the cloth, they can really achieve a lot of results in regards to making characters from prompts. Because when you think about it, we already have text to image, and we do have categorization of what like is in an image to figure out the text. So you absolutely can do a lot of figuring out like exactly what you need, which, let's be real, even if you have all the clothes ever and you have all the character sliders ever, if you don't know how to tune them, that's going to be problematic. Making attractive characters at a prompt of a text is a gigantic win on saving time.
It's certainly time saver. Just don't know if it's real AI.
I'm gonna let this thing play. I want to see it.
Yeah, so it's moving through all those sliders and stuff, and yeah.
Give him a uniform that makes him look like he's from sci-fi.
They just tagged all. They have a huge asset library.
It looks like they're also switching materials, not just
Yeah, but my thinking is these are all pre-made things. They're not making new content. It's just
okay. But at what point are you going to start calling like?
What about that?
Permutations new content?
Is that new content?
No, they probably have that alien already there.
Probably. Yeah. So the proof is in the pudding, and like it fits within the cloths, which means like they were aware of cloth proportions, which means it probably already existed.
It's pre-made with their rig, essentially their morph rig.
To put it in a different way, right now the technology to make 3D models from AI is like so primitive that if somebody could do something like that, this is not the first thing we'll see of it. Characters would be like one of the lowest priorities of something that can generate like models on the fly of enough quality to fit within character bounds and also be skinned properly. That's absolutely not going to be the first cause.
The first text he put up was "make me an Asian character," and then he ends up with an alien. Is that alien looking thing an Asian alien?
You're allowed to change your mind.
No, it's turning into like a Spawn character.
But is it Asian? He wanted an Asian character to start off with.
Changed his mind.
Oh, I don't know. I assumed he had overridden it.
Yeah. He changes it several times during the video.
Yeah.
He changes what he wants.
It's certainly more efficient than just dragging and dropping, and etc., and going through their store. I imagine they would have some service where you can preview all these things and then click the buy now button. That would buy you the licenses to those clothings that were used, because that's essentially what it is. It's a very nice store front. It's a very good way to browse.
Yeah, I mean the AI thing, a lot of times it's just people don't know what they want to select, and being able to type in text that gets them to the point, find it, is it's just a nice front to a user interface sometimes. So even if it is just switching blend shapes and moving sliders and all the rest of it, it's a lot easier to use for some people.
It is.
Yeah. The one thing about Does 3D is like it promotes realism in all aspects, where you can control. If I recall, you had like controls for like glute sizes, like you had actual skin muscle sliders for every individual like muscle of the character, and it would work with all the clothes. This is something that like you can't get anywhere else. In regards to how much work has to go into that, and like it hogs a lot of memory too.
The Reallusion character creator is on par, I think, higher quality in the end, if my subjective memory serves.
I absolutely don't recall. I have stopped using this when I realized like, yeah, this is never going to be available within a game in a reasonable amount of memory footprint and or other features, and it looks like fairly generic, like if you want to start using it. So when you want a game that truly shines.
In the PBR series of humanoids. We're working on an update too, but I always get, whenever I see the Daz stuff and the Reallusion stuff, I'm always like, oh, I do that. I do customizable. I do morphs.
Yeah, let's share those real quick and let everybody know that they're still on sale, right? How long is the sale for, by the way?
I do not know, actually.
It's an RPG sale. I haven't actually gone through the whole thing to see what stuff in it. Or it's not RPG, fantasy. It makes me think of the word RPG. You've got quite a few things in here, though, right? All your or a lot of your characters and one environment.
One environment. Yeah, most of my stuff is fantasy. So for a fantasy sale, I'm like, oh yes, that's my bread and butter. Perfect. Yeah. So we got the big things are on the top there. You can see the two low poly packs are both 50% off. The big bundle is 50% off. That's has all the humans and stuff. It also includes some of the stuff that is also on sale is in the big bundle. So the humans are in the big bundle. The battle sound libraries in the big bundle, the dragons in the big bundle, but you can get the Malachar if you don't want the big bundle. You can just get the single things. Low poly humans are not in either of those two monster bundles, the low poly monster bundles. So, that's separated out. But yeah, it's great. Fantasy sales are fantastic for Infinity PBR since most of our stuff is just fantasy focused.
And you can actually build a game with that.
You can actually build a game, and they all work on mobile. The high fidelity stuff worked on my mobile game in 2015. So when I get emails saying, does your stuff work on mobile? I'm like, it worked in 2015. So the answer is yes.
So, Pal, does your stuff here work on mobile?
Yeah, all of our assets work on mobile. You just have to use the lower quality ones, because in the pack we have quite few LODs for each asset. You can use the lower ones for mobile, and there are lots of games that use them. And RAM, you just choose what level of quality you want with reverse, so it's always the choice of the developer.
I think that's something people probably get confused on because they see it and it's super pretty and they might not realize that you've got all the LODs in there and they can actually use it in a lot of places. I'm really curious to see if I can use some of your environments on that Apple headset, though. I want to kind of try that out and see what that's like. I assume you're going to play around with them in there too, right?
Yeah, that's why that's why I want to buy one of them. Yeah, because I buy most of my headsets to test ad assets on them. Of course, I also made some games projects for enterprise, but I'm also testing lots of ad assets on VR to check if everything works.
So Pavel, will the first nature manufacturer game on the Vision Pro be The Floor is Lava?
No, for now we are not planning any games. For now.
Okay, so I ran a quick search for how many blend shapes each of Reallusion and Does 3D have, and Reallusion beats it by like a couple hundred. Holy.
Yeah, I think Reallusion is higher quality than Daz. I think I'm a little biased because Daz also seems creepy to me. I mean, that's just me, but so take that for what it is. But I also noticed with my own stuff. So when we did, the humans have like 170 blend shapes on them.
Scroll down.
And in our new version that we're working on, we're reducing that because what I found is for practical purposes, most of those shapes don't really matter when you're just trying to make a game.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
they really matter when you're trying to let an AI generate the perfect thing for somebody who doesn't understand what all of these things do.
Yes, they're when you hide it, then it's easier because there's so many. It just becomes hard to manage these tiny little things. You're like, what is this even doing? And you're like, oh, that part of the back goes in and out.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is like actually one of the big curses of like making a 3D character on a 2D rasterized screen, because you can't see the depth changing easily if it's not a very distinctly lit part, and it's not like close to the screen, because if it's something tiny like toenails getting tiny bit more round, you won't be able to see it.
And most games are you're gonna wear shoes the whole time. We don't even need feet.
You know, I had a thing where I tried to make a perfect character creator, and I was driven mad by how a lot of games don't ever like take your camera close to the part that you're editing, like in a very accurate way. Like they would do the general height of where it should be, but they would not consider like other sliders being different. And I decided I'm going to try and figure out what code is necessary in order to get that done. Way more than I thought. You have to figure out like the exact vertices involved in a specific blend shape, and then you have to figure out the positions of all these vertices on the skinned mesh, as it were. And then you have to like figure out the bounds that the camera should encapsulate containing all these vertices, which Unity actually has a lot of really nice methods for. Specifically, when you make bounds, you can keep adding new points, and it will like make the encapsulating bounds of all of that. Blessed. Just wanted to point it out. But yeah, there's like a lot of work to do just that.
Yeah,
and I just want to bring up, you also have to make sure that your blend shapes are clean, because there's like a lot of developers who would like make blend shapes and they don't realize they're actually moving like one vertex entirely removed from the specific part that you're changing by like a 0.04 of a centimeter.
Like, you also need more faces too. Like if you want to do a muscle to grow bigger, if your arm is just already relatively low poly and game ready, you're not going to get a good muscle mixture there. But it made me think, you're right, when you were talking about the character creating, and in a game, a lot of times you create your character and then you quickly, just like your iPhone, you put a case on it, you put a helmet on it, so the hair that you chose you'll never see again. But create a character is fun for a lot of people. It's like a mini game. So even if you're never going to see toenails, it would be nice for some people to customize their toenails, knowing full well they'll never see them again, but they know that those toenails are purple.
Counterpoint: if you're going to make a character that's so well customized, it is imperative that you add an option to always see the character's face in the game. Even if it's not practical, you have to allow to do it. It's like, it's almost a sin these days when I make a character in a game, like for a character creator that the game provides me with when I start my journey, and then they put a helmet on my character and I can't find the off switch for the camera's visuals. I am raging. No, I've seriously done that in some games. I've seriously I refuse to wear a helmet because I spent 2 hours customizing the character's face.
I do see in even like the new Diablo and like New World and stuff, you've got wardrobe that's not practical for making your character the most powerful, but people just want to look that way. So clearly the concept of aesthetics can override a person's sense of making their character as powerful as possible.
Dave, I've got about a minute of camera life left here. Oh, there we go. I wanted to share your video though before we have to wrap stuff up. Can you tell everybody what's in here?
Yeah, so this is the latest extension to my asset on the asset store, the Scene View Bookmarks tool. And the latest extension is a very quick pop-up window. And of course, for all the bits that I do on my tools, they then appear in YouTube videos on my channel, talking about what I did to develop them and how to develop them. In this case, it's a very quick pop-up window. So if you use Windows and you've ever pressed Alt-Tab and it brings up a window that you can then tab through to make your selection, I basically show you in this video how to create that sort of window. So how it pops up, how you can tab through it, and then release the tab key to basically make your selection. And it's the quickest window in Unity.
Nice. It would be really cool if I could see it. I'm gonna have to check that video out afterwards. I just linked it in chat so everybody can go watch it. And you said that's built into the asset that you put up on the store already?
Yep, the asset on the store, which is the Scene View Bookmarks tool, which enables you to jump really quickly. So if you've got an amazing asset like, let's say, a nature manufacturer asset for scenery, and you want to jump around the scene because you've got a troll at a beach there, you've got a troll down the lake there, you can very quickly jump between those parts in the scene, and it will set the camera to exactly where you set your bookmark. Or let's say you have an amazing character from Infinity PBR, and you wanted to move around that character. You wanted to be on the side, you wanted to go on the top because you wanted to switch. You didn't want to scroll your camera around to those positions each time. Again, you can have bookmarks for that, and you can jump around that character really quickly.
Does it work at runtime?
No, it's an editor tool.
But something that I'd like to bring up, it's such a good editor tool, model window tutorial, that everybody should try and make their own developer commands menu using that, because prompting a quick menu, clicking one button to toggle like a lot of developer stuff is an absolute blessing. And like you won't have a faster menu than that.
I just linked it and popped it up too.
So there you hear it. Uri says it's the best tool that you can get on Unity.
I would confirm it is the best scene view bookmark tool you can get.
Oh,
Nice. Yeah, somebody by the way in chat was asking how successful are these assets. You guys, I mean, you all make assets. Do you find them to be pretty successful? In my experience, like making assets on the asset store was super easy and made it a good amount of money for the amount of time. I mean, Pal's got a whole company based on it. And Andrew, yeah, what do you guys think? Is it something people should get into?
I made a talk about this in 2016 at the Unite. I'll try to find it, but I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm still doing it. If I lived in a very cheap area, then maybe it could be my full-time job, but I still have a day job. So there's that. But I live in an expensive area too. I say if you've got stuff that you make already, then it's a no-brainer to put up on the asset store and see what happens. You know, do a little work, make a little marketing, do some tutorials. If you're creating sound, if you're already creating characters, if you're already creating tools, yeah, put it up, see what happens. A little extra money can't hurt. I went the other route though, because I don't make the characters, I hire. So essentially a huge chunk of the money I make goes right back into making more stuff. And that's why I talked about in my 2016 Unite talk, where I actually showed the money I had made, or lost really at that point. I lost a lot. I didn't actually break even until 2020. And then I was finally able to pay myself for the first time ever. I got a day job because I was running out of money because my stuff wasn't selling enough. That being said, it wasn't making enough because I paid other people to do it and I live in an expensive area. So if you create it yourself, it's a no-brainer to give it a try.
I agree. That and the thing I made, I did all on my own and relatively quickly. It did stuff that I knew how to make and that people would use. What about the rest of you? Dave, are you quit all your other jobs now off your $10 asset?
No. Like Andrew, I live in just south of LA, a few blocks from the beach. So no, that's not. My outgoings are very expensive.
I can hear the pain.
yeah, I did want to. So yeah, no, I'm not making a massive amount. And to be honest, it's a case of I had all these tools already in my library, and I was putting out YouTube videos showing how to build tools, and I was like, I might as well do both at the same time. Put out a YouTube video on how to build these tools, and then if you don't want to copy the code down from the video, you can literally go and buy it from the asset store. And that's all I thought about doing. I was already creating the tutorial videos and everything on how to use the code that I was showing people how to do. So it's kind of a no-brainer for me to put them up, but no, they're not making Bearvink. So, but I've only been on it for like 2 months. So like, I am not the person to speak to about this. I've not been in any Humble Bundles. I've not been in any sales or anything like that. I am Mr. Nobody on the asset store.
I do want to point out, though, that the version that you have on the asset store is more advanced than the one that you're showing on the tutorials, right?
What's that?
The version
cool.
that you have on the asset store is more advanced than the one in
Oh,
the tutorial.
yeah. So the tutorials, because I can't go into because it would take forever to go through everything that I do in the asset store. There are multiple tutorials, and a lot of them are like how to create this pop-up window, how to build scene view how to build overlays in your scene view, and all the rest of it. But they're with relevance to this tool. So if you wanted to make that tool yourself, you could do. You have to connect up the dots though for yourself to be able to do all that sort of thing. Because literally, I'd be there for hours doing a video on it, and I ain't got time for that.
Pavel, you go ahead first.
Yeah. So I would assume that going right now on Asset Store is the same as going on Steam or App Store right now. Yeah. So it's quite a big market. There are quite big developers there and publishers. So if you have something ready, you can put it on the Asset Store. But if you want to make money from it, you have to make go to social medias, market it, prepare everything the same way that you are publishing your games. Yeah, the same. If you want to sell your asset, we are preparing. think I was talking about Lava for months right now, and we are just publishing it on Monday. Yeah, so it took months and months of preparation for bigger assets to sell, and the bigger assets sell better. Yeah, the smaller ones can sell well, but you won't be having enough money to market it, etc.
Yeah, you have to do work. I mean, if you want to make a lot of money on it, you've got to do the work. It's like any other business. It takes eyeballs, and the store will give you some from just people searching and all that. But there's 80,000 assets or 90,000, whatever it is, and so you got to do the work. You got to build your community, create Discord.
There's also another aspect to this, which is when you want to have an asset, you have to consider how sustainable it is into the future, because code assets are subject to any change in code that Unity wants to have. Visual assets are subjected to any shader changes that Unity wants to have, especially with its different render pipelines. Recently, it's become a huge deal, but in the past, visual assets used to be way more sustainable than programming assets, simply because you would make an asset once and you would forever have it. Right now, this is unique only to model and animation only assets. The models can have the textures and no real material provided, or just like the default importer and trusting Unity to actually import correctly for a specific project. But otherwise, it's difficult. As a consumer, the only thing I'm saying is I will buy a lot of assets, especially when they're on sale. I look up at the new assets on sale every time. I ask people what their opinions on assets are, and assets that get a lot of reviews early tend to be people's favorites because they actually bought it because they saw it has positive reviews. So it's it's a vicious cycle where if you don't get eyes on it and you don't get reviews for it, it's becoming really difficult for an asset to sell. And I am one of the minority, according to Jason's story server. We had a discussion on discoverability and how much we browse for the store. I went through every asset on the asset store as far as I can tell. I went through every category for every single asset, and I watch every day. I have a bookmark of the things released within the past 24 hours on the Unity Asset Store and the things updated in the Unity Asset Store within the past 24 hours. And I just go through everything. And I will say that the assets that are visual tend to update way more. The assets that are related to code and are more expensive tend to also appear way more. And personally, I buy some assets to figure out how they tick, to understand how can I make my own stuff, which is where advanced assets really come into play. If you want to make a system and there is an adjacent system that looks 90% of what you want, or even 70%, or heck, it even does just one thing that you need, it may be worth buying just to see how you do it yourself. Which is when legends like David here are absolutely worth checking out.
Yep. Yeah, I always do that
Yeah.
too. In the past, I've grabbed tons of assets just to look at them and see how they worked. About half the time, I get disappointed though and find out that it's just some bad hack that like
Yeah.
I'd already rolled out. I'm like, oh no, that's exactly what I was trying to not do. But yeah, sometimes you get some really good info.
None of my
Yeah.
stuff is bad
Oh.
hacks. Just want to put it just in case. Except for the
Spe-
audio preview tool. That's a terrible hack. But anyway.
Speaking of bad hacks, can we talk about the Dev Blitz Day?
Oh yes, yeah. Let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, so for those not in the know, Unity started doing regular Dev Blitz days where they take a topic and they talk about it, and they answer questions asked within a 24-hour period, both on their Discord server and on a forum section made specifically for that single Dev Blitz day. And recently, I had a field day because they finally had a Dev Blitz regarding the content pipeline in Unity. And I'm super appreciative that they're bothering to do that. So let's see a link.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. I have the link on my other system right here. I'm trying to get it over to this one and pull it up.
Yeah.
And do you want to? I looked through there, and I know when I first looked, about half of the questions had come from you. So
Yeah, no,
was there anything really good?
So there is a few nuggets of gold here. I'm going to have to figure out which thread is which because I it's kind of like a big mush in my brain right now. But just going through it quickly, my own questions were like regarding Unity scene assets and regarding can we have animation variants because animations are not like editable if they're imported through an FBX. And the Unity content pipeline has a lot covered for it. This particular Dev Blitz was addressing the addressables, the asset database, the import workflows, and the content building system, which you have to deal with if you're trying to make a game. A lot of the threads here basically revolved around addressables and the usage of addressables regarding duplicate assets, because when you have an asset in Unity, you have a scene included in a build in Unity. Unity is actually going to build everything related to this scene. So if this scene references a prefab, Unity is going to build that prefab. And if this prefab references a model, Unity is going to have to include that model in the build, etc., etc. And the list of your assets become big the more scenes you have in store and the more content there is in these scenes. And then separately, if you're using addressables, you're declaring what should be built in which bundles. And Unity will build that not knowing what is going to be included in the build by default. So you can have a situation where an asset is both an addressable and in the Unity scenes, ergo, you have it twice within your build. And even worse, you can have it twice within your memory, because it's recognized as a separate asset. So there were some discussions regarding that here.
Was there a solution for that one?
There was a lot of talking about how you can detect that and what you can do to kind of like patch a situation where you have something like that. The developers were actually really informative. Some of them went deep into like how some methods work and what you can actually call to do certain things. In one of my own questions regarding giving unique user data for each object, for those not in the know, an asset imported comes with a user data string that you can have like whatever you want in it. But because it's a single string, if multiple developers want to write something to it, they can't unless they all magically agreed on the same system of reading and writing to that string. So I was asking for a different solution and noting down all the existing hacks for it to see if something better can be brought up. And they're actually considering a lot of improvements to many of the things brought up in here, which is fantastic to hear. In general, I always recommend reading through this because this is where you also find nuggets of gold from Unity developers themselves. Like, we're talking about Unity technologies here, not a random developer that found a thing that works for them. This is official recommendations, as it were.
Yeah, I feel like these are underutilized by the community. Like, they just don't realize they exist and there are only 23 questions total, and like six of them are you, I think.
Yeah, 4. But in particular, this dev list had a tiny problem where it didn't open at a scheduled time. It opened a bit later, so there's like less questions here. But they do go through these and they do answer. And when one starts, you should go there and ask questions because you might get answers that you didn't expect. A lot of people do not read the documentation in Unity, and then when they recommend you things, they don't recommend you the things that Unity recommends to you. And they may not know the best solution or a solution at all, and they will offer you hacks instead. When you ask Unity developers, you'll get a good solution, usually, if there is one.
Yeah, it's mental how often I do a video on the channel and somebody turns around and goes, I didn't know you could do that, because they literally never saw it in the documentation because it's not promoted.
Yeah.
Cool.
By the way, David, they actually answered the question regarding the custom user data, and they came up with something pretty interesting. Apparently, you can remap an asset, so it's an external dependency of the original asset. So you can have like any extension type you want that is a Unity object be referenced by your object, and then in the import process, you can check for it and do whatever you want with it. So any asset can be
Because
rendered.
you and me, I think, ranted for like a day on that subject alone. I remember.
Yeah, so you can add remaps to
Discord
like
on
any
that.
amount of assets that you want with unique identifiers, and then those assets can be used. I asked if you can actually make a text asset and then like embed it within the original asset, and it would count as an external asset, so you can. But I haven't gotten an answer on that yet, so we'll see.
Yeah,
it looks
user
like-
data in general is just not very well done in
Yeah.
Unity.
They have said that they want to look into improving and making the importer windows extendable, which is going to be so good if they can do it.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, that really needs to happen.
By the way, I actually discovered and started using one of my own hacks in order to get into that. When Unity added the addressables, they added something that lets you draw at the end of drawing the header of an inspector. So at every inspector, when you look, when you have the addressables package installed, there will be a checkbox that you can say, is this addressable? And if you click that, you can add an addressable path. That is actually using a hook that anybody can hook into and add literally anything they want. So you can like draw a circle there. You can include new information regarding the selection that you have there. You can make buttons that do literally whatever you want. Hey, take this FBX importer and turn it into a dedicated animation, and also make all the animations here in loop, and also name them something like based on the animation file name instead of mixamo.com or something that you will see on literally any Mixamo animation that you import. And then when you try to drag it into your animator controller, it's going to call itself mixamo.com because that's the animation clip name that got imported. So you can literally change that and like make one-off buttons. It's so useful.
Yeah, I should do a video on that.
Yeah.
You should. And I really hate having a dead camera. There was a question in chat. Are we done talking about the goggles? The answer was yes. That was a bit earlier. Fun discussion though. I kind of got to wrap things up because I've got a dead camera and it's driving me completely insane, and I've got somebody at the door. But I did want to just really briefly remind everybody to go watch Dave's video. Check out the updated course stuff. If you haven't seen it, I've just updated the page a little while ago. I'm going to add a bunch of lessons to the game developer course. So just rename the bootcamp one to game developer course. It was confusing the crap out of me having too many different names. So it's going to stick with 2 simple paths. And next week we're going to have a little live event for all of the students in Gather. So I'll send out an email about that too with the links. And then we'll probably just do those going forward. And also I wanted to remind everybody to go grab, or at least check out. Oh wait, first there's this Humble Bundle. One of you guys sent me the Humble Bundle. Is that somebody's stuff in there, Andrew? No, just an awesome Humble Bundle.
Cool. Yeah,
fair enough. Worth checking out for sure. And then Paula's got the Nature Manufacture environments. They're on sale. They got 3 of them at 50% off right now. And Lava comes out next Monday. It's just this Monday in like 3 days, right? Oh, I can't wait. I want to try that out. I really want to play. I'm going to grab that quest 2, bring it here and start playing with it on Monday. And then Andrew also has a whole set of 10 different characters available, half off, or not 10 characters, but 10 packs full of characters. What are they, like 20, 30 characters total in that sale?
More than that. There's 20 in the low poly one. There's 17 in the low poly 2. There's 5, 6, 7 in the big bundle. Then the monster bundles each have 4. So there's a lot you can get.
Nice.
A lot of characters.
Yeah, we'll definitely go check all those out, and then we'll be back next week. Are you guys up for that discussion on shaders next week? Maybe have a
If I'm present, yeah, sure.
Okay. Maybe we'll have the shader discussion. I really want to talk about that book, Writing Quality Shaders. I've been kind of going through it, and I've got a little bit of time this week to read and get through another chapter or two. So if we can talk about a couple chapters in there, talk a little bit about shader development. It's something that I really suck at, and I think a lot of people probably do too and would like to learn more. And I think that, at least 3 of you are probably very good at shaders. I don't know about Andrew. I know I'm terrible with shaders, so you guys can all teach us some stuff. So.
Being good at shaders is a lie. You only understand the macros.
That's fair. And the time will be same time next week, probably Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific. So we'll see you all there. And yeah, go check out the lava. Grab that lava pack on Monday. Maybe I'll do a little stream and grab it and play with it. It'll be fun. And then we'll see you next week. All right. We'll see you all later. I'm going to find my button and hit goodbye. Oh, I can't even wave. I'm sitting here waving at a camera and nobody can see it. This is so sad. I'm going to cry.